The stadium did not gradually empty. It seemed to disappear in an instant. One moment, thousands of Filipino fans were waving flags and chanting so loudly the entire place seemed to shake. Then suddenly there was silence, folded banners, vacant seats and footsteps echoing across the concrete. Alex Eala walked away from that court, and somehow she took the entire spirit of the Cincinnati Open with her. The 21-year-old from the Philippines had become the biggest attraction at a $7.4 million tournament. The second she was eliminated, organisers were left looking at empty sections and confronting one deeply uncomfortable question. What exactly just happened to our tournament? To understand that moment, we have to rewind to the start of the week, because you cannot understand the silence until you understand just how loud it had become. The Lindner Family Tennis Center had been transformed around Eala. Philippine flags covered the railings, the food court was serving adobo and pork lumpia, and the merchandise tent had already run out of flags by the second day. Every night Eala stepped onto the court, the place filled up. It was loud, emotional, passionate, and completely alive. One commentator described it perfectly. It felt more like a basketball game than a tennis match. Fans were reportedly paying nearly $1,000 on the resale market, not to watch a final or even a semi-final, but to see a second-round match. Tournament officials said 80% of ticket inquiries were centered on one question. When is Alex Eala playing? Not Sabalenka, not Swiatek, not Goff. Her, a player ranked 20th in the world. And Cincinnati was not the first tournament to experience the Eala effect. In Washington, 80% of ticket requests came from her supporters alone. In Toronto, officials had to move her matches onto centre court because the grandstand simply could not handle the crowd. The 10,000-seat stadium sold out every night she played. Cincinnati had seen the warning signs, but even Cincinnati was not prepared for what she brought. August 17, 2026, late at night in Cincinnati, Ohio, Alex Eala faced Amanda Anisimova, the world number 10, a two-time Grand Slam finalist and former world number 3. The match lasted 2 hours and 28 minutes, and almost every part of it was brutally entertaining. The opening set became a battle of endurance, lasting 67 minutes and filled with pressure, grinding rallies, and pure determination. The fifth game alone took 20 minutes. There were 13 deuces and 8 break points for Anisimova, and Eala saved every single one. She stayed composed like someone with twice her experience. Then she broke in the 10th game and finished the set 6-4. The crowd exploded, flags went into the air, and the entire stadium felt as if something historic was unfolding. The second set became even tighter. Both players protected their serves through the opening 6 games, until Anisimova finally found a clean break and defended it perfectly. Suddenly, the match was level at 1 set each, and a deciding set was required. Eala came flying out of the third. She held her opening service game, broke immediately afterward, and moved ahead 2-0. Once again, the stadium erupted. The flags returned, the noise returned, and everyone watching remembered that Eala had already done this against the biggest names in the sport. She had beaten Sabalenka twice, defeated Goff, beaten Rybakina and Pegula, and entered this match with a 9-4 record against top 10 opponents. It looked like she might do it again. Then came the moment that shattered millions of hearts. In the 5th game of the deciding set, Eala reached 40-15. She was just 2 points away from taking a 3-2 lead with all the momentum on her side. Instead, she lost the next 4 points. Just like that, Anisimova moved ahead, and she never surrendered the advantage. 6 of the final 7 games went to the American, including 3 breaks of Eala's serve. It was clinical, merciless, and devastating tennis. The final score was 6-4, 2-6, 6-2. And when Eala finally walked away from the court, the stadium that had felt like her home for 7 days became completely quiet. Philippine flags were slowly folded. Fans began leaving without much to say. The enormous roar that had defined the entire week had suddenly been replaced by almost nothing. Then Amanda Anisimova walked to the microphone, and what she said next caught everyone's attention. She praised Eala as an incredible player and fighter and called the match extremely difficult. That part was expected. But then she continued. She acknowledged the huge support Eala had received and said she truly appreciated the crowd because she understood exactly why Alex was so loved. Then she smiled and joked that she really needed the pick-me-up because it was already past her bedtime. The audience laughed, but beneath that joke was something much more meaningful. Here was the world number 10, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist, standing at the microphone after winning, openly recognizing that much of the crowd had actually come to support the other player. The stadium had belonged to Eala, not Anisimova, and surviving that atmosphere while winning the match was clearly something worth acknowledging. Think about how significant that is. This was not a commentator saying it. It was not a journalist writing about it afterward. It was the player who won publicly admitting that Alex Eala had earned every person sitting in those stands. The Eala effect was not simply noticeable. It had become so powerful that even her opponents felt the need to recognize it after defeating her. And then came the morning after. The emotional disappointment was obvious, but the financial side of the story was just as striking. The Cincinnati Open still had 7 top 10 players remaining in the draw. Sabalenka, Swiatek, Garth, Pegula, and the rest of the sport's biggest stars were still competing. Yet without Eala, something about the tournament suddenly felt missing. Here is the uncomfortable truth nobody in tennis administration really wants to say out loud. The Eala effect had quietly become the tournament itself. Nearly $1,000 for a second-round resale ticket. 80% of ticket demand connected to one player's schedule. a food court adding Filipino dishes in the middle of the tournament specifically for her supporters. Merchandise tents selling out of Philippine flags within days. Cincinnati had not simply benefited from Alex Eala, the entire week had started revolving around her. And once she was eliminated, the energy, the atmosphere, and potentially the revenue seemed to walk out of the gates with her. That level of dependence is remarkable, and if you are running a major tournament, it can also be a little frightening. A player ranked 20th in the world carrying that much commercial influence is not just a feel-good headline. It is a real and measurable business phenomenon. Cincinnati felt the impact the moment she was gone, but there is something the scoreboard cannot tell you about Alex Eala. This loss does not define her, not remotely. She is only 21 years old, and she has already beaten 9 top 10 players this season. She captured her first WTA title in Washington by defeating world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final. She reached the 4th round at Wimbledon, and in Cincinnati she pushed a 2-time Grand Slam finalist into a 3-set battle that continued past midnight. Her record against the world's elite now stands at 9 wins and 5 losses. Every time she steps onto a tennis court, she carries the expectations of an entire nation, yet she handles that pressure with a calmness many players much older than her still struggle to find. The US Open begins August 30th at the UT Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York, and for the first time in her career, Eala is expected to enter the main draw as a seeded player. Last year at Flushing Meadows, she made history by becoming the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match in the Open era. This time she arrives looking like a genuine contender. Her North American hardcourt run has shown that she belongs at this level. Washington showed that she can win titles. Toronto and Cincinnati showed that her popularity and success are not some temporary accident. Losing hurts, it always will. But the players who become truly great are not the ones who avoid defeat forever. They are the ones who learn how to respond when defeat finally arrives. The silence that fell over Cincinnati that night was real. The heartbreak was real. The empty seats, the folded flags, and the strange emptiness inside a stadium that had been overflowing with life only hours earlier were all real, but this is just as real. Alex Eala is only getting started. She is 21, ranked inside the world's top 20, owns 9 wins over top 10 opponents, and has a fan base willing to follow her almost anywhere. And now, in 2 weeks, she will walk into the biggest tennis tournament in the United States, more experienced, more confident, and hungrier than ever. Cincinnati went quiet, but New York is about to get very loud. If you are following Alex Eala through every chapter of this journey, subscribe and share your thoughts below. Do you think she can make a deep run at the US Open? How far do you believe she can go at Flushing Meadows? Let's talk about it.